and welcome to the meeting. Please press 1 and I'll connect you. When you hear the tone, you will be the 6th person to join the meeting.
Hello. Hello,
Hey,
Tina.
Brett, how are you?
Good. How are you, Tina?
Good, thanks. I think, was Lisa able to connect to?
I think everyone's
okay.
trying to connect here. We can see if everyone can speak up, if they're able to hear us, and if they can speak in to see if we can hear them.
We can hear you. Lonnie and I are in Port Huron. We can hear you guys.
Okay.
This is Sarah in Lansing.
Okay, good. And is Lisa on? Lisa Vernon? Is Scott Brown?
Yeah, I just got in.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, hey. Took me a while to figure this out. It was blocking me because of pop-up blockers, so
Yeah,
sorry.
I had the same experience. I'm not sure if Lisa can talk. I think she's trying to get...
I just got in. I had to call.
Okay.
Okay. Was everyone
Do
here?
we have everybody?
I think so.
I think Janie just joined us too, so... Okay, well, Tina, thanks for doing this. Lonnie and Scott and I were talking, and we had got your messages and your emails about geofencing and the PowerPoint decks, and we were just, kind of left with a few questions, and really this is going to be more or less an open discussion and talking about, our questions that we have and anything more specific than what's not provided in Salesforce or any of the other decks that are out there. I know this is a new product, and that's why we're kind of doing this, to get on the call and try to understand it, and all the maybe logisticals or any technical questions that anyone might have. But I know I had those questions that I had sent you initially through the email, and you'd asked me, what specific questions that I had, and I've been asking those questions. I asked those questions to Nick, and he said that he didn't have any information regarding those questions as far as logistically how geofencing works on apps. How many apps do we cover? How to calculate impressions or how to understand impressions, and then the budget breakdown and all that. So I think that you have that email that I sent you. So if you could go over maybe some of those really briefly, and then we can kind of just have an open discussion with everyone here.
Yeah, so mobile geofencing in its most granular form is targeting down to an address level, and then within a few feet of that address. So if I'm within a certain range of a business, or that maybe that business's competitor, we can deliver ads to people's phones. It's all based upon geolocation services. You have to have that enabled. And you may notice sometimes you'll have apps and apps that they can know where you are, and it says you can say yes or no. A lot of people say okay because they like the convenience of their phone knowing where they are to deliver them accurate information based upon their actual location. So that's how it works from a mobile standpoint and from the app standpoint. So it's all based upon the GPS and geolocation services that are on every smartphone. I don't know if I'm on the phone, but I don't disable my geolocation services. I don't always give all apps the ability to know where I am. It just depends on the app. I tend to be fairly selective about what app I want to know where I am at that given time. In terms of how many apps do we cover, the number is I won't say limitless, but when you think about exchange in general and just how many apps and mobile sites are out there, The number is exponential. And these apps or these publishers that have these apps or mobile websites, become part of exchanges, right? So they can put their unsold inventory up for bid, and then the highest bidder would win the impression on their app or their mobile page. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So then we get into the tricky part of impression calculations or estimations. There is no way to do that. Again, if you think about the programmatic environment in general and just how large it is in terms of scope and the hundreds of thousands of publishers that submit their inventory to be sold through a programmatic bidding system, trying to estimate impressions is very difficult. The other thing you have to think about too is when you start looking at mobile geofencing, it will tag people, and the tag only lives for 30 days on their device. So it functions a little bit differently. So the nice part of that is you get more of a recency targeting capability with geofencing. So calculating impressions is very difficult. It's actually not possible. We can't calculate impressions. So what we would do with a budget is, if a customer has $500, $600 to spend, then you could use your base CPM to try to estimate what those impressions would be in terms of a range of impressions. So don't put yourself in the position of telling somebody they'll get 100,000 impressions. The geofencing environment is extremely competitive. The CPM, the open rate is $17 just because there's just so much bidding and so much activity going on and people want those impressions. So my recommendation is always to sort of under-promise and over-deliver when it comes to the impression component. But Central AdOps and the programmatic team do everything they can to manage the bid so that they win the impression at a fair CPM, if you will. So they don't want to spend it all. We have to maintain some margin when we run these campaigns. But when you think about how they have to go back in and monitor the system, and then at times they do have to fluctuate the budget or the bid to exhaust the budget. That's essentially how that works in terms of how you could get back into an impression range, if you will, that you can share with customers. Types of apps, there are all types of apps, right? All different publishers. When you think about just the exchange, all the people in the exchange in general, the publishers from Comscore Top 1000 sites, everybody's in there, right? I don't think anybody has sold out inventory state, so they put those impressions up, as we do in Connect, into an exchange that we can bid and get some programmatic revenue for those impressions that aren't purchased locally. Targeting. For mobile geofencing, you really don't want to target, right? It's about reaching somebody who's within the proximity of the business. So an example could be, I own a sporting goods store, and I want to target people within this area of my business, and this is my address. But I also want to target people who are at the park nearby. So what's the location of that park? Or maybe I want to target people, there's like making things up here, but maybe I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at a sporting goods store. I also want to target all the people when they're over at the football stadium. So you would provide that address too. So the idea is to give enough addresses so that we can get enough people and have a large enough audience. You wouldn't add any type of targeting. So it's just all about the person being in the vicinity of the business at that given time.
Okay, so can I stop you right there really quick, Tina? So in the order form that was given on Salesforce, so when you mean list of addresses to geofence, you're not talking about web addresses or apps. You're talking about a physical address.
That is correct.
Okay, that's where we were kind of getting caught up here. Oh, that was confusing for us, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a physical location. So my store address is 123 Main Street. I'm a car dealer, and I want to target all these other car dealers that are my competition.
Okay,
so you can give off the addresses of their competition.
Okay, so that's a good idea. But so let's say I'm at, like you said, 123 Main Street. Can I also add a radius, so a 25-mile radius around my store? Or are we going to talk about like a 1-mile radius or a 5-mile radius?
You're talking much smaller than that. If you want to go the route of just doing a geo-targeting campaign on mobile with a larger radius, then just do regular mobile on the exchange. Provide a zip code or zip code to add off and then tell them the radius of the zip. Mobile geofencing is much, much smaller. So it's a very tight, compact space. So if you don't have a client that, if you have a customer who's just like, I want to be on people's mobile devices within a 20-mile radius of my store, 6-mile radius of my store, then I would just use regular exchange mobile campaigns, which are $5, $7, and $9. So I would go that route instead of doing mobile geofencing.
Okay.
So think about it like you're literally fencing off a very small area in order to get in front of people.
So and are we talking feet here, or are we talking yards?
It can be a combination of things. So one of the things we have to look at is who's the customer and what would a good spatial area be. So I've seen it go down to 100 yards. I've seen 100 feet. But again, not always practical to get too granular. This is a very small business. So I think what we have to do is take a step back and figure out who's the customer and where does he want to reach people. And it's only going to be people who have been in that proximity of that area in the last 30 days. So it's a good add-on to campaigns. But again, it just gets so very granular and so very specific that it's not necessarily for everybody.
Tina,
Tina, can I,
go ahead, Scott.
It's just real quick. I just want to go back to the radius part again. So the email that you sent over, where option number 1 was zip code with radius, it said starting at 6 miles. So that's the maximum, realistically, that you want to go. So it would be 6 miles and in, or is that the starting zone? You see, like it says zip code with radius, and then number 2 is address level. So with the zip code with radius, are you talking 6 miles max?
No, that's the starting point. So if you provide a zip code, you start at 6 miles of that zip code, right? So then it'll do that. You can increase it to whatever you want to. I think it's just going to depend on the client that you're working with and how big of an area their audience would be in. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay, thanks.
There is no maximum, but it's just based upon the client need.
Sure.
And there's a question of share of voice. Again, with anything in the programmatic environment, trying to calculate a share of voice is nearly impossible. We don't even know how many impressions you have to work with on a given basis, because it changes dynamically every minute, every hour, every day. If you think about it like Detroit News posts a story and it goes viral, and suddenly you've got all these billions of impressions that now we're probably going to put out to be sold programmatically, because you don't have critical sell-through at a local level of your current impressions. So there's just so many things that can impact availability, volume. It's hard to even communicate any kind of share of voice. But I'd recommend is that you're going to help your customers reach people within a certain proximity of their business, whether we go down to the address level or we with a radius. We're going to reach people on their mobile devices, and we're going to reach your audience on their mobile devices. I would just kind of put it that way versus trying to do a share of voice. It would be, you just can't really calculate it, because it's just a large mass of impressions that are out there, if that makes sense.
Okay, Tina, so would you say that the best prospects for this would be, we have to have a major event or a lot of foot traffic in order for this to work? I mean, is there a gauge or metric or kind of a round figure of how much traffic we need in a given area? Because I can't see this working only for large events, or maybe a vicinity, a shopping mall, or stadium or events, or maybe a large metro area. Is there any other situations where we can get where this would be beneficial? Let's say like smaller markets or markets that don't have, you know, events going on or something of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple of campaigns executed where it's like it's a retail store. They target the area, but they also target like the mall, like a shopping mall, where there are like large condensed areas of people. So even if the market is small, you typically are going to have areas where you get a lot of people that are congregating to do something in particular, right? So, you know, in the town that I'm from, we do a lot of big concerts. So it'd be interesting if I had a client who was interested in maybe the audience that was going to that concert. You know, we could use that as an address. And keep in mind, you can use multiple addresses. In fact, the more addresses you use, the better, because you're going to get a better size audience to work with. So I think that, you know, that's where we have to think about, you know, who's the client and what does their competition look like. The other example, the other example that I had, I think I sent it to you in the PowerPoint deck, I think. There's an example of a pizza place. Let's see. And what they did in that particular example is, so they took a look at their own locations where their customers would be, and then also targeting their competitors' locations. So I think I sent the deck, the one that has all the examples of the Geo Fencing, Brett. It's slide 23. It just shows you how they said, okay, so this is a local pizza place, and they targeted all of the pizza places in like that greater area, so they know that their customers are there. So they all those addresses for all of the pizza places, and then the idea is to have some sort of like compelling offer that you're going to deliver to somebody's mobile device to get them to think at that moment in time or within that 30 days to come and see you.
Yeah, I have that slide up right now. I mean, that's an interesting concept. I mean, in theory, I'm just trying to understand logistically too. So you're saying that if I'm at a pizza place and then if I'm on a particular app, now is this going to be like a notification that comes up, you know, as an ad that is within the app, or is this something? It's not going to be like a beacon type of thing, right? This is going to be within the app.
Right. This is not beacon technology. It's regular mobile ad sizes. So say I'm in a pizza place and I'm reading Yahoo News. I'm reading something, whether it's on my mobile phone or it's in an app. Remember, the phones also have GPS themselves. So it's not just the apps that have this geolocation. Your phone in general does. So I'm in the pizza place and doing something on my phone, either looking at a website, maybe checking my email, reading an article or a story, and then what you're able to do is, you know, serve up an ad to that person's device. That's how it functions. So it knows where you are, and based upon how the campaign is structured with the number of addresses, it says, oh, okay, local pizza place, you want to get to everybody who's, you know, in Papa John's. Can't read the city name on the slide. So here we're going to go ahead and serve. We're going to put your ad in rotation to serve, if we win the bid, that person that's at that Papa John's location.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
or has been at that Papa John's location in the last 30 days.
Okay, and then
they might not be there at that moment, but they've been there in the last 30 days.
Okay. And so these campaigns run. I mean, can you day part this, or what's the recommendation on how a campaign? Are they all different by vertical, or what's the recommendation on how these campaigns should be run, either on like a daily or a monthly type of outlook? What does that look like? Should they just be running, you know, constantly? I mean, are they going to be a 24/7 thing, or?
I mean, I would be, because if you're trying to target me and send me a message that's related to someplace I've recently been, and it's going to be relative to me no matter when I see it.
Okay. So,
I mean, I wouldn't day part any of this. I mean, there's no targeting. The targeting that's here is just sort of a hyper version of what we're accustomed to with geo-targeting, right? We're just getting down to very specific address levels that we can target because people have been there. So what you can do is, with your customers, sit down, and maybe you probably don't have a map, but sit down and then just talk about, you know, where's your competition, or depending on the type of store, are there other like venues, other things in their area. It doesn't have to be a tight location. It doesn't have to be like next to them. The example that I used of like being in Green Bay and I'm a sporting goods store and I want to target people at Lambeau Field, you're able to do that.
Okay.
So those are all ways to use the mobile geofencing.
I read somewhere, and when I was doing research, that there is some technology out there, and I don't know, this is what I wanted to ask you, is that once someone steps in a fenced area, they have that fencing tracking capability to where they leave the fenced area, they can still be served up ads. Is that something that we have capabilities of, or is that just within the fences when they're only going to be able to have those ads? It's not going to carry along with them when they leave the fence.
So if you've been in the area of one of those addresses within 30 days, you don't have to be there like now, right? If I've been there, like if I've been to the Papa John's in the last 30 days, I'm not there right now, but I still can get served an ad because I was there at a certain point in time. So the other option I think that you're also talking about is like beacon technology, right? Where I walk into the store and it sends me a push notification. There are folks at Connectlo working on some beacon technology, but it's not ready for deployment, and we really haven't figured out how we would sort of scale that across the market, just because we're selling technology, we're not selling a product, right? So it's a little bit different than on how we would present to our customers. So the customer would need to set that up in their business in order to get the push notifications to go. It's not something we would manage for them. We're just providing a technology for them using beacons. So does that help make sense? So imagine I go to Papa John's on Saturday. Today is Wednesday. I'm still in the 30-day time frame. So the pizza place is still going to want to reach me because they know at one point in time I was at their competitor's location.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that explains it. I mean, I was wondering, that was one of the main things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know if we could still get those ads served up, just because, you know, if we left the fence so we could get those ads, because that does provide a lot of value then at that point. Definitely.
I do have a question on that, though, because right now, the way we can get this ad will be served to someone. Let's say they went to Papa John's. Within the last 30 days, we will now serve them with an ad. Are we going to continue to serve them with ads for the next 30 days as well?
If they go back inside of one of your geofenced areas.
Okay, so they have to be inside of that area or have been inside that area within the last 30 days to be served an ad, but we won't continually serve them ads unless they're inside the geofenced area?
Unless they go back inside one of those areas that you have listed as being targeted. Yeah, so they come out in 30 days. Which isn't a bad thing, because at least you're able to target people who have shown intent and interest in a recent period of time. So, you know, maybe I went to Papa John's in Detroit and I was just on vacation. Well, the Detroit pizza place isn't going to want to send me ads after I'm not there anymore, right? So that's kind of an extreme example, but I mean, with 30 days, you have that ability to show the customer that there's been intent in a relatively recent period of time that someone has been in that geofence area.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That just helps clarify that. Tina, I do have a question on the reporting. Sorry if I'm getting ahead of what we're going to talk about. In our reporting and the metrics for this, the questions we get all the time from like a retargeting campaign or a remarketing campaign is frequency. Like how many times a specific ad is being served to one specific person. Mm-hmm. Are we going to have that metric available in the reporting?
I don't know if we deliver back unique users, for lack of a better term, I guess. I can check to find out.
I would actually, if you could, I know you don't have to give us the advertiser's name, but if we can see a report from one of these campaigns, that would be great. Because we don't, a lot of times what happens is we talk about all these great targeting capabilities, but sometimes when it comes back to the reporting, we don't have the metrics to support those capabilities, even though we know they're happening. And sometimes that's hard for an advertiser to see the value in that.
Yeah. So I don't know if, for frequency is part of the reporting, but I know that, so I'll give you an example. In Salisbury, they, for the summer, wanted to target tourists in Ocean City. It's a fairly defined area. It's fairly small in terms of where they wanted to target. And they actually were able to successfully deploy quite a few mobile geo fencing campaigns for different businesses within that area so they could reach those people who were tourists. So I can pull a report from there, and then I think Pensacola has been running some, Fort Myers has been running them. So I can get you some examples and send them over to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Anything else?
On that same note with what Nikki just said, we are also able to limit the amount of the tags, so to speak. So it doesn't have to be 30 days. We could do 2 weeks, correct?
Well, I mean, the idea for any campaign is you want to keep a campaign active and running. I don't know how effective a 2-week campaign is going to be quite honest with you.
No, I don't.
Unless the customer sets a huge spend, it's a short-term event. I mean, like with any display campaign, we always recommend you run a minimum of 3 months so that you can, help the customer reach all the right people over a period of time. So have the right reach, have the right frequency so that the messages resonate. So unless it's a very, very short-term event or promotion or something, I would steer clear of running anything that's too short of a time frame. And again, the mobile geofencing environment is competitive, so the shorter time you have, the more aggressively you might have to bid, and we could run the risk of under delivery or not being able to not able to completely exhaust the budget.
I'm sorry.
This is kind of a probably not a best practice to do 2 weeks.
Okay, so that wasn't exactly what I meant. I apologize. What
Okay.
I'm saying is targeting inside that geofence. Yes, the campaign's going to run for 6 months, let's say, but let's say it's a vacation area and vacationers, it's a grocery store. Those vacationers are only there for a week or 2. We only follow them for a week. So the frequency amount, are we able to limit that shorter?
That I'm not sure of. I would have to check. I don't know if we have like a frequency cap of any kind. That's what you're asking, right? So I only want to target them for this period of time. The campaign's running, people are in the geofence, and instead of 30 days, I want to stop reaching them after 2 weeks. Right?
Right.
I can find that out for you.
Okay, it's just a scenario. It's not a necessary need. Just want to understand.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can find out for you. Any campaigns I've seen executed, they've just run. They haven't done any kind of like frequency or limitation in terms of delivery of the campaign. So I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Tina, just really quick again, I want to I want to make sure that I understand how to calculate budget or how budget is calculated. So there's not a calculator, there's nothing out there. So it's 17 on our rate card. It says 17 CPM for ad exchange, 17 CPM for retargeting. I'm not sure if there's any huge discrepancy with that, but or what that actually even means, I guess. But is this something that is unlimited impressions, more or less? So we can say X unlimited impressions for X amount of time, and then that's how we just calculate. We don't have anything to go off of except that 17 CPM.
Right. So what you need to do is when you're putting together a campaign for any kind of programmatic buy, we need to work with a budget. So say you got $5,000 a month to work with. Of that $5,000, $2,000 we're going to put on the exchange. Then we have to sit down and determine how are we going to slice that $2,000 budget. So we may say we only want $500 a month for mobile geofencing. Well, then you can take your $17, divide it into 500, and come up with an impression range. So it really comes back to the budget and what the customer can invest. The larger spend, a larger amount of a customer spend, you should focus on premium, so you're owned and operated, and then the exchange comes in to supplement, so to help you with the reach and the frequency of your owned and operated. Does that help clarify it all? There's no science to it. It's not like retargeting where we can use monthly uniques of a customer's traffic on their website. It's just we sit down and say, okay, what's the budget we want to allocate toward this? What's the monthly spend we want to allocate? I saw what they did in Salisbury is they give a minimum of $500 per month investment on the exchange. They did $250 in mobile geofencing, and they did $250 in just regular audience extension, and they used interest and geo targeting. So you could take that 500 and slice it and dice it. It really just depends on your geography and the area that your customer will find their audience.
Okay, so no matter where you're actually targeting physically, I mean, there's really an unlimited number of impressions. Let's say if we have one store versus 5 stores, like in that pizza example, we're just going to segment that off and splice them up with the budget, basically.
Yeah, and so what you can tell your customers, that I know that selling programmatic is very different than how we're accustomed to selling guaranteed on our owned and operated site. Because we go to a customer and say, we'll deliver you 100,000 impressions on this site over this period of time, and this is the CPM, and this is the cost. It's different in programmatic because it is such a dynamic environment. It's all real-time bidding. So if you can imagine, I go and load a web page. There's an ad tag there. It calls to our server DSP and says, do we have an advertiser in the server? No? Okay, well then go kick that off to the programmatic environment and let people start bidding and the highest bidder wins. This happens within seconds. So there's a limitless number of inventory as long as you don't slice and dice too far. So if you've got a tiny little business and you only target their address, probably not going to have a lot. So that's why when you put together these campaigns, you really need to sit down and think through what are all the locations that we can target that make sense. Because and you know this, anytime you try to slice and dice something so far down, you just aren't going to be able to find enough people. It's just going to, the audiences become so small that it's almost insignificant because you just can't get in front of them often enough.
Okay.
Does that help clarify it?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to implement one of these firsthand and see how this works, logistically on our side, and put everything together. So the only thing that we need is this form that you sent us. Is that the only document that we need for materials needed? Is the geofencing address list? Is there anything to our ad ops people that we might need to give them?
Just the standard banner ads. Just your regular ads created for mobile.
Okay.
Okay, so like the 300 by 250 and a 320 by 200, I think.
It's 320 by 50. I don't know if you have them on your rate card. I have them on the corporate standard rate card. They have a 300 by 250 and 320 by 50 are usually the most universal sizes that you find out on mobile devices.
Yeah, that's what we have here.
Yeah, you can, just pulling up a document really quickly. So some of the mobile specs that they've also given us, they being medium half, they've got like 480 by 48 to 216 by 26. So I can send you a list after this call, the ad sizes that are available. And the GIBC should still build all of them for you.
So is the SBX included in this? Do you know?
No, Facebook Exchange is only done for retargeting.
Okay. It's almost, it's just targeting just at a foot traffic level, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a different type of retargeting, but we only have Facebook Exchange because we have to drop pixels and it's just a different process entirely. So we don't We don't have the Facebook exchange with us
Okay, thanks.
at this time. It can happen later, but right now we don't.
I think Sarah had one question. I'm not sure if we answered this or not. She asked, can you limit how far back someone was tagged at an address? For example, someone who was at an address in the last day.
I think you did answer my question. I was really specifically thinking for an auto dealer or any kind of large purchase item, honestly. You know, if, for example, with auto, we know, shoppers don't go to physical addresses of the dealer lots like they used to. Therefore, if they're on the dealer lot at some point in the last 30 days, they are likely to buy. Same thing with maybe, I don't know, possibly like a furniture store. So would we want to really continue to target that person if they were at a competitor's location when they very likely bought already? You see what I mean? So that's why I was wondering if it could be, limited to somebody that was at my competitor's store or lot for, in the last day. Because otherwise, why would I want to continue to market to them?
I mean, I guess that you could argue both points, and I might go to the lot and I might look around it. I may not buy. I may be on the lot and an ad comes over my phone and it's from the competitor, and I may leave and go to the competitor. So, and I could have just been. A lot of people like to shop when the dealership isn't necessarily open, meaning they wouldn't be able to buy. I guess there's lots of different variances, but to try to go to somebody who is at the address in the last day, I just don't think they'll be able to. I don't think we can do it. Maybe we can, but that would make your audience so small that you'd be targeting like just a handful of people. It would be very, very small.
Right.
That might, Sarah, that might be a really good idea for like service. If you think about it, maybe not purchase.
I actually wrote that down. So if you're a Chevy dealer, and if you're a Chevy dealer, because I was trying to think of because the CPM on this is higher than a lot of your average CPM. So obviously we want to make sure we're targeting not wasting money on somebody who might have already bought, but for like service, for example, if you've got a Chevy dealer and you want to target another Chevy dealer, you could absolutely put a service message in front of them. And if you've got a small geographic area, small enough where you could steal somebody's service customers, that's absolutely, I see that as a good opportunity.
I mean, just make sure their website's mobilely responsive. But no, that's a really good idea.
Anybody else?
Anything else you can think of?
Scott, you there still? You have any questions? He might have jumped. He might have. I think he might have had to get off for a second.
Okay. Well, if you have any other calls, I'll get the list of ad sizes for you. I'll get you some example reports. And also look
I'm still on the call. Sorry. I'm still on the call. I was on mute. I apologize.
Okay,
no question. Thanks, Tina, for your help.
Sure. Okay, so I'll get you the ad sizes, all of them, and then I will also inquire about the potential to frequency cap based on one of the questions that we got before, which was related to like a 2-week time frame. So I'll find out from the team if that's something we can do when we execute a campaign. I think a lot of it will have to come also down to how many addresses do we have, and what does the whole campaign look like? So if we've got 2 addresses and then we're looking at 2 weeks, if we just don't have enough addresses and audience to try to go after, it just may not going to deliver the reach and frequency that we need for it to be successful. I'll get all those answers for you, and then I'll just email you back. Does that work?
Yeah,
sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tina, one last thing. If there's a possible, you say that there's no list, even like the top 20 apps that are out there. I mean, clients are definitely going to ask, well, what apps am I going to be on or whatever. I mean, how would you address that? And if there is there any way to where we can get maybe a fraction of that list or some type of idea about those apps?
You could always tell a client that the Comscore top 250 or top 1,000 websites are part of the exchange. But the challenge becomes you cannot guarantee they're going to deliver to any of those. They may deliver to one, they may deliver to another, but there's no way that you can guarantee because it's all non-guaranteed inventory. It's all based on the bid and then how aggressively others are bidding for that same impression.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways that you can address it is just to speak to the fact of how we're reaching people and not just their storefront area, but also their competitors. So they're showing signs of being there recently and then having intent to purchase or shop for, or I'm going to sporting events or sporting goods stores. If you can draw correlations to who we're reaching and where they are, that might help them. That might resonate a little bit more with them. So who's your audience? Where are they? And then let's look at all the places that we can try to target them in terms of an address level. And then that's what we're going to focus on. So it's your target audience and where they like to go, what they like to do, where they might be, and then position it that way. Because what will happen is if you try to guarantee it'll be on any site, it usually always comes back and doesn't get delivered there. So I would steer clear of, you can share lists of what the top sites are, but we never guarantee that they'll be delivered there. It's just like when people buy programmatic on our site, they try to win the bid and they try to get on our site, but they don't always, and so that's sort of the nature of non-guaranteed inventory.
Okay, but this is only on apps, correct? I mean, geofencing is strictly only apps.
It can be mobile web too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's mobile web too because you have to remember your phone has GPS built into.
Okay.
So it's your mobile device. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if anyone else has any questions. Maybe we could wrap it up, and then maybe if you could just give us that follow-up material, Tina, that would be great.
Yeah. I will do that.
All right. I don't think anyone else has any questions at this point. If you do, speak up.
I think we're all.
If anything comes up in the interim, just go ahead and send me an email. So our advertisers target an event address, for example, an ATV dealer targets a hunting, fishing show. Yeah, I mean, those are good examples. Yeah, I've targeted with something going on at a specific location. So if you have anything else, just feel free to send me an email.
All right. Well, we really appreciate it, Tina. Thanks for making time for the call.
You're welcome. See you soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Tina. Bye-bye.